Good morning and welcome to this International Security Journal video series for the leaders in security. Today I'm with Stephen Kenny from Axis Communications, who's based here in Dubai. So welcome, Stephen, and perhaps you can explain to the viewers what your role here is.
Yeah, thanks, John. So Steve Kenny from Axis Communications. I head up our architecture and engineering program across EMEA. So I look after Europe, Middle East and Africa. And I've got a fantastic team of 10 that support consultants that are looking at designing and specifying all of the fantastic, great big buildings that we see across all of the different regions. I also work heavily with different industry associations, looking at how we can sort of educate on best practice, different standards and norms that we're looking at, and even government organisations that are looking at creating different rules and regulations to support with the specifying of different technologies moving forward.
So it sounds like your role is a combination of, strategy and forward-looking and operationals, getting down into the details. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing at the moment, and what do you think the trends will be in the future?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think what we see is a lot of people talking around the features within a technology. I try and strip it back a little earlier, so we talk around the common business challenges, and some of the ones that we're trying to highlight and really educate on is some of the sustainability challenges. In different parts of the world, the cost of energy is massive. So the operational disruption and the challenges the business face there is huge. But we're also speaking around cybersecurity, trying to elevate the importance of this topic, but for physical security practitioners. So not the IT, not people that traditionally sit in cyber, but just making sure that everyone's got a good understanding of the piece that they play in the decision-making process when we're talking around IT security.
So it sounds like you're kind of heavily pushing this knowledge transfer, whether it be performance specifications, whether it be due diligence around the vendor selection and the equipment selection. How do you enable some of this knowledge transfer?
So for us, it's working at events and organisations like we're here today. It's around trying to sort of, spread the word. People don't know what they don't know, and sometimes we're so busy doing what we're doing on a day-to-day basis that we've always, we always focus on what we know and we understand. So from my point of view, and especially from Axis, we focus a lot on speaking at conferences. We do a lot of article writing for different industry associations, and we also work within standards organisations as well. If we look at, say, the BSI or different organisations across Europe, we make sure that people understand the known challenges that they're looking to address and how we can design those out, how we can mitigate the risk and build new standards to overcome those challenges.
So you talked about working with some of the associations and getting them to understand. How receptive are they to people like yourselves providing information for them to learn? You talked about they don't know what they don't know, so how do they receive all this?
So I know we both work with ASIS. As long as the content is positioned correctly and it's educational, people are very receptive to that. What the industry doesn't like is a sales pitch. Now we can walk around and talk around the greatest sales technologies in the market, but that's not education. That's, people have got a day job and a salesperson's got a target to hit. So it is what it is. As long as content is educational and it's validated and has some form of credibility behind it through research and development testing, then we find that the associations are pretty quick to pick that up and mobilise it across their membership.
So if we talk about this research and development testing, what's the background? How does your organisation go around that?
We have, so for Axis, we have plenty of laboratories. So all of our labs in our R&D testing, everything goes through a vigorous testing process, and it's documented, and then we engage with third parties as well. So if we look in the cyber world, we will engage with third-party companies to penetration test equipment. We'll take the lessons from that, we'll publish that, and we'll communicate that out to the market. So it's all around transparency with the testing process.
So when you're working with, whether it be associations or end users, what are some of the questions that they're asking you for answers?
The big one today is it's around sustainability and the energy consumption. Across Europe, especially at the moment, the cost of energy has pretty much doubled in the last few years. And we can't hide from the fact that the security systems are operational systems. What we don't want is we don't want businesses to switch them off because they can't afford to power them. Otherwise, why is that security? So today more than ever, we are being asked about what is the costs associated with the operational system. I'm moving forward. Business ethics. Where do we manufacture equipment? That is huge. When we go through the due diligence of some form of vendor risk assessment, we've got to be very transparent on where the components come from, who's written the source code to those components, where are they manufactured, and how are they distributed across the market. And that's probably more aligned to the cyber security. When we consider that third-party technologies can impact the end user's reputation, and we've seen it across the UK at the moment, we've seen it in the US where there are different technologies being banned, and it is just because businesses are scared of the impact it'll have to their reputation.
So when we start looking at the reputation and the due diligence around manufacture and I guess even supply chain delivery, how is Axis doing things different to the rest of the industry?
So I think a lot of the industry, they have to source components from different parts of the world, and naturally I think the supply chain issue it's had a huge impact globally for everybody. One of the things that we tend to control is the processing chip. So we manufacture that processing chip, and we essentially we do a lot of the code for that in-house. So that enables us to build all the cybersecurity features and measures into the technology. We're not reliant on third parties. That gives us a lot more control of the types of firmware and the operating system that will sit in our devices, and that's fairly unique to Axis. There may be one or two other manufacturers that do a little bit of that. If you buy an Axis camera, it's an Axis camera. We don't OEM, so we don't rely on any other companies to manufacture that we rebrand. So if someone buys an Axis camera today, it's been designed and manufactured by Axis. And I won't say that's completely unique, but there aren't many businesses that hold that today. And we're also very controlled with where we manufacture and we assemble our technologies as well, because there are different rules and regulations in different parts of the world. So to be compliant, we make sure we follow those.
So if we go back to this, I guess, energy expenditure around how do we make sure everything's cost efficient, there's often a bit of a disparity or a conflict between capital expenditure when I'm installing a system. I want something that's cost effective and cheap versus operational expenditure, where often the people who manage the operational expenditure aren't involved in the beginning. So often there's this, well, I want to buy it because it's cost effective, but no, I want you to spend more money because it's cheaper to maintain. How do we balance that off? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the motivations between different stakeholders in that decision-making process is very different. So what a procurement manager's KPI is may be very different to the head of security, and how they drive down costs. So we've always tried to position a total cost of ownership. So we're very transparent with our partners on this is what the capital expenditure will be, this is what it will look like on day one. But then let's factor in the life cycle of that system. So what are the energy consumptions? What is the maintenance process that's required? How are these systems maintained? And even down to the costs of, if you buy, say, certain softwares, some will have a license-free upgrade strategy, some will have an annual reoccurring revenue model. So it's just making sure that businesses know that if you are buying something that is going to cost you money to upgrade every 12 months, that is built into the maintenance package. And just moving forward, it's just demonstrating what a system will cost over, say, a 7 to 10 year period. We can only hope that that is shared across all of the different decision makers, because if it just sits with one individual who is solely responsible for the capital expenditure, do they care about what 2 to 10 looks like in terms of the strategy?
So, what are some of the future challenges do you think that the industry has to consider, and how is Access leading the thought process on that?
It's a great question. So we will hear and see a lot of the challenges or people speaking around artificial intelligence. For me, I see the discussions around that and the potential around artificial intelligence is great. We need to manage expectations, because I think people see it as the holy grail. It's like, as soon as we get artificial intelligence, it's going to deliver, everything we need. I don't think the security industry is there yet, so we need to manage those expectations. What we also need to be mindful of is how the security teams within an organisation support other divisions. And when we look at security technology today, it doesn't just capture and provide security information. It collects data that can be shared with other members of an organisation. So if we're looking at some form of digital transformation or business intelligence, it's just making sure that we can leverage all of the data that's being collected so it can be used across lots of different stakeholders in a business. So that is a challenge on how we do that, but is also a great opportunity, because marketing teams have a big budget, and if we can get marketing teams to spend on security systems, it's a win-win situation.
Look, thanks for your time today, Stephen, and I'm sure Access Communication is going to be around for many years to come. So thank you again for your time, and I look forward to seeing the next innovation that you will provide.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.